We are talking about Super Mullet in Action Comics 692. Yes, this is Superman with the long hair and the mullet. But don't let that fool you. This was actually a very good issue. The print date on this comic was October of 1993. And if we recall from the last issue, if you've not seen the review or read the last part, which I believe was Adventures of Superman 505, I think, Superman's back. He has finally had a moment to settle back in and talk to Lois, get to talk to Jimmy again, and then show the world that Superman is back. But there is a part of his life that is still missing. Now, if you don't want to be spoiled, like I said, either go check out the review we did prior to this one, or go get the series of The Return of Superman and come back. And you're back. At the end of the last issue, not enough coffee yet, Superman's kind of talking about how they can bring Clark Kent back because he's been declared legally dead, his apartment's been sold, and he's lost his job at the Daily Planet. At the end of the last issue, he saves this little girl, I believe it's a girl and her brother, from the rubble. And Jimmy says something to the degree of, hey, maybe Clark's caught under some of this rubble. And him and Lois share a look, because it's something they've been talking about earlier. And he goes, well, Jimmy, why didn't I think of that? So that's where we pick up in this issue. And before we talk about who is disguised as Clark Kent, this is Roger Stern writing, Carl Kessler co-plotter, Jackson Guise and Dennis Rodier doing the art, Albert de Guzman doing the lettering, and Glenn Whitmore doing the coloring. And so I just love how all of a sudden it says, Superman, I knew you'd save me. And of course we get the iconic red suit with the seal right there. Very awesome. And all of a sudden, here comes Clark Kent. Wow, that light's a lot brighter than what I've been used to. So how in the world can one man be in two places at the same time? And once you're in on the joke, everything that's going on here is just makes you laugh. Like right here where, oh, good Lord, it's so good to see you again. It's dreaming of this moment that's kept me going. Me too, lover. Me too. Superman, we owe you so much. Yes, without you, I'd have lost Clark forever. It's so good to have both of you back. Thanks. We'll get there. But it at least saves Superman's secret identity. She goes, the whole world's wondering how you managed to survive that battle with Doomsday. He goes, Ms. Grant, I can understand why your viewers would be curious about my comeback. Frankly, I'm still looking for some of the answers myself. And until I find them, it would be irresponsible to make any sweeping statements. And so after that, we kind of get a really cool, I guess you could call it a montage or a series of shots, but we see that they're kind of catching up on the Eradicator going to Star Labs to be repaired after sacrificing himself to save Superman from the cyborg. We see that, what is it called, Superboy and Supergirl working together, finally showing that the cyborg Superman was the reason for all this chaos. Now, if we go back a little ways, when the cyborg Superman sent the Justice League into space, everyone was kind of debating who was right. And Guy Gardner actually backed the cyborg. So I love that when the press comes to him, he goes, get that camera out of my face. So I picked the wrong Superman. Give me a break. So it was just kind of cool to see how Guy sort of, what is that called? The I can't remember, but basically is eating his own words. And then, of course, the old battle continues against Superman and Lex Luthor. And Luthor's happy that he's back because now he has a chance to try to do all of his machinations. Again, going back to this is about the return of Clark Kent. And you're still wondering, who the hell is this? And so the door opens. I take it that everything went well. Then I'd say it's time we ended this little charade. That's my woman Kent, and I want her back. And you're thinking, what the hell? And it seemed like it's about to turn into a fight. And he goes, is that so? Well, I say, let's let Lois decide. Okay, I've decided. And just shoves this faux Clark out of the way. Now, again, if you don't want to be spoiled, go get the series. But remember, the Supergirl that we know, this is not the Supergirl that we knew from Crisis on Infinite Earths. That one had died. This, help me out here down in the comments. I can't remember where this happened, but basically a shapeshifter saw the greatness of Superman, so he took the form of Supergirl. Something about amnesia. He tried to take her to the Kents to raise her, and she took off on her own and joined with Lex. But essentially, that was the Supergirl during this era, and she shapeshifted into Clark, and that was how they were able to put that little charade on and save both of his identities. Now, remember, he had that interview, and they're asking, how did you manage to come back? And he's like, I still don't know that answer. So we get a visit from Dr. Occult, who kind of pays a favor to Superman and walks him through every portion of this. Because the effects of the past, after all, are always with us. You say, Clarks, what's wrong? I'm okay. It just felt like something knocked the stuffing out of me. Another effect of the past, I'm afraid. As we go along the path, you'll relive the ordeal. With luck, it'll be easier the second time around. So, Dr. Occult essentially says that Superman, in a sense, died. But there was just an inkling of his consciousness left. And Dr. Occult says that if you would have left him out in the sunlight, he would have eventually recharged, not putting him in a dark, dank coffin. And it wasn't until the Eradicator came and essentially gave him a jolt of life. And also his spirit fighting with his dad back in the Adventures of Superman 500 and bringing him back to Earth instead of succumbing to the afterlife. Doc Occult here even says, you put up a hell of a fight, Superman. But so did Doomsday. He wore you down to the point of death, and you sacrificed yourself to stop him. But even after all, there was still residual energy in your body. Even as your body was departing, that Kryptonian body of yours was soaking up more energy from the sun. Not fast enough to save your life, but enough to slow your death. And then you got a little help from the paramedics and from others. So in the first issue, Funeral for a Friend, that we will eventually go over, Bibbo goes to use the shock panels, and it's so powerful that it knocked him back. And so Doc here is saying that if he would have been left out in the sunlight, he would have eventually came back. He's saying right now, everything that happened after the death of him, he's saying his body did physically leave his body, but because his body was still absorbing solar rays, he got trapped in this limbo. He states, with his body in that null state, his spirit has been trapped between the living and the dead and became prey for all manner of demons. And that's where we got about Pa Kent helping him fight his way back to the land of the living. And Dr. Occult here says that if it hadn't been for all these circumstances, you would have perished. You are killable. You are just hard to kill. So essentially, his gift to Clark was to show him just how precious this second chance at life was, and to let him know what happened to him, because he keeps saying that I had no idea what happened to me. And so I love here at the end, I'm a part of the sun, as my eye is part of me, that I am part of the earth. My feet know perfectly, and my blood is part of the sea. And my very own self, I am part of my family. My soul knows that I am part of the human race, as my spirit is a part of my nation. So this issue, there were some great fun moments and some very poignant moments to finally open Clark's eyes to what really happened to him, and all these things, all these people that cared about him, that tried to do what they could to bring him back to life, and those who would be his enemy that would actually call him friend to bring him back to what he was. This is an excellent issue, and I highly recommend it if you are a Superman fan like myself. So if you've enjoyed what you've seen, please first and foremost go support your local comic shop or wherever it is like to get your action figures and comics, and grab this series, collected trade, individual singles. However, just read this series, because this is one of those ones that's going to be around for a long time in the Chronicles of Superman. And if you've enjoyed this review, I really would appreciate if you take a moment to hit like, share, and subscribe. Helps the channel more than you could possibly know. And if you don't mind hitting that fancy little Krypton bell next, subscribe. That way, as I continue to upload content, you guys get notified. Come to the channel, and I love talking with y'all and hearing your thoughts and feedback down in the comments below or the socials, which I'll make sure to leave the links down in the description. So with all that said, hope y'all continue to have an absolutely amazing day reading, and happy hunting, everyone.